Happy Korean New Year. It's the Year of the Tiger, and today I'm talking to Dr. Corny Taylor-Smith from England. She is a research scientist at the charity Tigers4ever. They are a charitable organization trying to make the world a better place by protecting tigers in India. Hi, Taylor-Smith. Thank you for joining us today. What sort of challenges face tigers today?
Well, one of the biggest challenges facing tigers right now is the distinct loss of their habitat. In the last 100 years, they've lost 97% of their original habitat. So as the human population has grown, the amount of space for tigers has grown smaller and smaller, and the population of tigers has decreased accordingly because with no space, there's no prey. And with no prey, there's nothing for the tigers to eat. So they tend to kill each other, and people kill the tigers as well. So those are the biggest threats really right now.
What projects are you working on to protect tigers?
Our main projects at the moment, we have anti-poaching patrols, which patrol in the buffer areas around the protected areas in Bandhavgarh, which is in central India in the Eastern Ghats. And we've been patrolling those areas since 2015. And in that time, we've seen a 97% decrease in wild tiger deaths due to retaliatory poisonings and poaching incidents. So we're quite pleased with that. We've also seen the wild tiger numbers triple in that time. From the census in 2010 had 37 tigers, and in 2018, 126. So pretty good numbers in that time. So our anti-poaching efforts are working quite well. And one of the other things that we've been addressing is the issue I was saying to you about the habitat loss. On average, an adult male tiger needs about 100 square kilometers space for his territory. And that may overlap with up to 10 females if he's a lucky male tiger. But in the reality in the wild, they tend to only have 2 or 3 because there are so many males and not enough females to go around because there isn't enough space. The female tigers need a space of about 10 square kilometers. So that's how the 10-to-1 ratio tends to work. But that's dependent on them having enough prey in that area. If there's not enough prey, then they need bigger territories. And if they expand into a bigger territory, they likely encounter other tigers, and then tiger-tiger conflict comes. So one of the things that we've been concentrating on since 2017 is putting permanent wildlife water holes into the tiger reserve. And what that does is it attracts the prey numbers to stay in the area where the tigers are. And because the prey concentrates in that area instead of dispersing into the villages looking for water, then the tigers need smaller territories. Therefore, there's reduced tiger-tiger conflict, and cubs survive for longer. So that's a big plus as well. And the other thing is it reduces the human-wildlife conflict, because when the prey animals don't have any water, they go to the village looking for water, see the food crops and eat the food crops as well whilst they're there. And then the tiger follows looking for its dinner, and the prey animals run away, and the cows and the goats that belong to the villagers get eaten instead because they don't run away. And so the villagers get very upset because they've lost the crop to the prey animals, and they lose their the livestock that they sell the milk from to the tigers and the leopards. And so then they poison the meat, and then the tiger brings its cubs back, and then maybe 4 or 5 tigers die in one go. So the water holes are trying to keep that conflict away by reducing the straying prey and straying tigers. And at the minute, we're in the process of, we finished one major water hole just before Christmas, and that helps 8 tigers and 40 elephants, which have also caused quite a bit of problems in Bandhavgarh recently. And at the minute, we're working on 2 water holes in neighbouring territories, and one is to provide a permanent marshland, which tends to dry up because the monsoon rains are getting shorter and less. And the dry season is meaning that it's longer and longer. So the drought dries up the marshland, and then all the birds and the reptiles and other animals suffer, and it triggers things like forest fires. So we're putting a solar pump in there to rejuvenate that wetland so that that will be year-round water, and also a seasonal water hole that dries up that currently 7 tigers use. We're putting a solar pump on that one so that it'll have year-round water as well. And then hopefully in the next maybe 2 months, subject to fundraising, we will do another water hole in a very rocky area where there's very low prey numbers, but a lot of tigers. And the tigers in that area, there's a lot of human wildlife conflict because they tend to go into the villages at night and take the livestock. So if we can put a water hole in that area, then we can reduce the loss of livestock and the risk of retaliatory poisonings. So there are major 2 projects. And then we have another one on the education side. So children your age and younger, and a few older. Many of the villages, especially because of the COVID situation, have had much reduced income, and they can't afford to get the pens and pencils and books to send their children to school. And if they can't buy the books to send the children to school, then the children don't go to school and they end up working in the fields. So we're distributing at the minute 450 education packs. So that brings us to 2,650 education packs for 25 villages in total so far. So those are our major projects. And then something that should be close to your heart is later on this year, subject to fundraising, of course, we're hoping to start planting some trees to restore the lost habitat. So, because some forest fires have happened in recent years and damaged a lot of trees. So we're hoping to rejuvenate the forest where those trees are not growing back. And also historical illegal logging. We're hoping to put trees where areas have been cleared. And we're hoping that where there's an edge of a village, if we plant the sort of trees that the humans can benefit from, the fruits and the mahua flowers and the tendu leaves that they pick to sell, then it will stop them encroaching into the forest where they're more likely to get mauled by tigers or leopards, bears, and other animals in the forest. So those are our major ongoing projects at the minute.
Have you ever seen a real tiger in the wild before?
Yes, I've been very fortunate to do that. My first encounter with a real life wild tiger was in Corbett National Park in the Himalayas in 2007. And since I was a little bit younger than you, I had this burning desire to go to India and see a tiger in the wild in Corbett National Park. And everybody said to me, no, you'll definitely not see one in Corbett. Go to other places. Corbett's really difficult to see one. And I said, yes, but I saw an old documentary, BBC documentary, and I really want to go to Corbett. And on the very first day, on the very first safari, I was fortunate enough to see a tiger up on a ridge, hiding in the long grass. And it was a really difficult sighting, really difficult to get a photo. And I was so excited that when I got back to the lodge where we were staying, I sent a text message to everybody I knew, even though it was 1 o'clock in the morning for them. And everybody who left the phone on overnight got a call saying, I've just seen a tiger. So that was like the most exciting. A few weeks later, probably maybe only a week later, I encountered another tiger just sitting by the side of the road called the Tigers4ever cub, and that was in Bandhavgarh. And he was a really nice young male tiger. And in fact, I'll hold up a picture. I don't know whether you can see this. Can you see that? That's my mouse mat. This is the tiger that was sitting by the road. And can you see how big he is?
Yeah.
He was a 22-month-old cub. and he was huge. And when I saw that tiger, I thought, I have to do something for these tigers, because if I don't, they won't have a future. So that tiger inspired me to set up Tigers4ever and do something for the tigers like him and other tigers in the wild. So yes, I've been very fortunate to see, and I saw him grow up and become the father of many cubs. And sadly, he's no longer with us, but I saw his life cycle from cub to adult to deposed adult. And then he sadly passed away 3 years ago. So it's kind of sad, but his grandchildren and his children still roam the forests of Bandavgar. So we've left a lasting legacy for them.
What do you think the future will be like for tigers?
A lot of that will depend on people. One of the things that we focus on at Tigers4ever is working with the communities who live with tigers, because if they have an incentive for the tigers to stay alive, the tigers have a better chance of survival. So we recruit our anti-poaching patrollers from local communities. We recruit the people who work on our water hole projects from the local communities. We use delivery services. We buy all our equipment locally. Bicycles for the patrollers are made locally. We use local services for food supplies for our anti-poaching patrols. So in supporting that local community, everybody's got this vested interest in the survival of the tigers. And we find that it works, because those people know, like, if they get some information that maybe poachers are in the area, they stand to lose their business that we keep putting their way if they hide the poachers, so they don't provide any shelter for the poachers to sort of mix in the community and look as if they belong. So that's helping to reduce the numbers of poachers, because 2020 was a bad year for poaching. It was the highest figure of poached tigers in the whole of India for 10 years. But in Bandavgar, we only lost one tiger in a poaching incident. Still one too many, but nonetheless, you know, if we can keep those numbers low or to the zero, then we feel like we're getting a long way. So I think really people need to sort of focus on what the people who live with the tigers face, and helping those people face it in a way that they know that those tigers are precious. Because one of the really difficult things we found when we went to India the first time was people said to us, haven't you got tigers in England then? And we said, oh yes, in zoos. What, you mean they don't just roam by the roadside? And these are like educated people, doctors and solicitors, and they thought that tigers roam freely all around the world. They didn't realize that 2/3 of the last surviving population of global tigers actually live in India. And when they're gone, the chances of survival for all tigers is probably gone with them. So I think India's the best chance. And if the conservation goes well, then that's good. The government needs to do things about supporting conservation type projects instead of coal mining and other mining activities. Perhaps curb industrialization and protect the environment. India is very big on coal mining, and it's one of the largest producers of coal. And in recent years, it's upped its production of coal when everybody else is cutting back. So one of the things that, you know, we keep working on is trying to sort of say, let's not dig up the forest, but let's plant some trees. Let's not dig them up and mine there. Let's plant some more trees and take the carbon out of the atmosphere instead of out of the earth. So I think it can be a bright future, but people can't sort of take their eye off the ball.
Okay. What would you say to kids who are worried about tigers?
I think that they're right to be worried because there's so much conflict in terms of the adult world as to climate change isn't real, and that's something we can deal with tomorrow. And the kids need to sort of convince the parents that this is my future. This is my life that you're taking away from me by cutting down all these forests and destroying all this wildlife. And if the kids are really concerned about tigers, they can help by doing things like be aware of the wildlife where they live, and what are the plants in your garden? Are they native? Are they wildlife friendly? When you go out for the day, do you take your litter home? Do you recycle things? Do you always want new? Can you take your things to a charity shop? You know, can you make better use of what you've got instead of increasing the carbon? Because palm oil, for example, is a big problem for Sumatran tigers because the forests where they live are hacked down for palm oil plantations. It's not a major issue in India, but in Indonesia, Sumatra, and parts of Thailand, Vietnam, clearing the forests for palm oil production. So be aware of what you're buying. If you see that it's got palm oil in it, is it forest-friendly palm oil? Is it conservation palm oil? Campaign with people and say, don't cut down the tiger's forest because the tiger numbers are declining, and if you keep cutting down the forest, they'll be gone. Since the last year of the tiger, 3 countries lost all of the tigers out of the 13, and a 4th one is borderline will lose them because there's not a viable population. So that just leaves 9 countries with tigers and only 5 viable species in the wild. In the 6th one is only in zoos at South China tigers. They're right to be worried, but it's not all doom and gloom, because as we've shown in the last 10 years, 12 years, we've actually managed to triple the tiger numbers. So with a bit of effort and putting the concentration of efforts in the right place, if everybody can do something like that, the generation of people like yourself can be the tiger protectors of the future. Does that help?
Thank you so much for joining us today, and Happy New Year. If you would like to help tigers, you can click on the link below to donate to Tigers4ever.